Hello again, my name is T and welcome to my party. So, man, Takumi just died. It's a bummer. He got shot in the head with a rifle, and the scene they described was nasty. Like, the first shot didn't kill him, but then he got shot again, so it's like, he was alive through part of that. How we know this, we don't know, we're just speculating. Let's go. Let's get this hellhole through. Kiyonosuke asks, clearly avoiding looking at it himself. Bring me someone who can use guns, please. I never expected you to come along. Her expression was too stern and serious for me to even say that. Takumi? Shit! She cursed and looked at the gun. This is Kanzo's rifle. She grasped its long body and picked it up. All the 5 bullets were fired. See any empty cartridges? I'll look around. I found them real quick. They were covered in blood and flesh, but yeah, I found the metallic cylinders. 5 of them. Just as a hint for people who may not know, guns are very uncommon in Japan because they are outlawed. You can't legally have one with you as Americans do. Barf. So finding somebody who's familiar is probably a little difficult, especially here, but it makes more sense to have one in a rural area where wildlife could get you and hunting is necessary. Makes sense. But just some side text. They were 2 meters away from the corpse, very close to one another. Either the culprit fired from there or gathered them afterwards. Look at the handle. Chami extended the rifle to me. I did as I was told. Compared to the rest of the gun, which had blood on every part, the handle was clean, like it had been wiped. They removed the fingerprints? Probably. Yeah, like we're gonna test for fingerprints out in the forest. Chami held it like she was about to shoot, aimed it at Takumi's body. It was fired from here. How can you tell? The way the blood scattered. See how it's concentrated around here? It's proof the culprit fired from a low angle. Also, normal rifles can't make such a huge mess unless they're fired from really close. Oh, I mean, Haru could have fired it, she's kind of small. But make it point blank and the stuff would get on and around the muzzle. The rifle would be even dirtier. And that was why it was natural to think it had been fired from where she was standing, near the cartridges. Can you actually aim and hit something with this? As long as you know how to aim the target and the target isn't moving, that's all you need. So this was done by somebody who knows how to use guns. By the way, it's just a matter of looking at the bead through the sight. Guns are useful little toys that make murder so easily. Anyone can do it. Yeah, America. What about loading? That doesn't seem like something a layman can do, is it? Good point, but even Teiba has experience firing a gun. Finding the culprit in Yasumizu won't be easy. This was a settlement where people went hunting. Basically everyone here must have touched rifles before. All we could really assume was that Maiko-chan couldn't have done this. And it's not like every bullet hit the head. One grazed the ear, one hit the chest, one hit the shoulder. Oh, and look here, a bullet hole. She pointed at a small part of the floor that was ruined. So, only one hit the head. Yeah, I think that one wasn't fatal though. It was probably the one that hit the chest that ended it. She looked at the body's pose and made the same conclusion as me. Why do you know so much about guns anyway? I have a hunting license. I know how to use guns, traps, and nets. I used to do lots of skeet shooting outside of Yasumizu. I'm pretty good with a gun. Well, damn, I didn't expect that. I can understand why. Did you plan to return here and become a hunter? I just wanted to have a gun, that's it. She said that if it was no big deal. Her tone seemed kind of dangerous. Ooh, you think maybe the families of those kids she beat up are like threatening her? I mean, it would make sense that she was scared because they would want to get back at her, but I don't know. It was the impression you get from a girl capable of random acts of violence. It was probably jumping to conclusions, though. Can we clean it up now? If you're fine with it, let's do it then. Did you find out anything? I'm now 100% certain that these murders were committed by people. The culprit used a gun and wiped off the fingerprints, acts that demonstrated a very human level of cunning. If we were up against something supernatural, they'd just use their mysterious powers instead. If something mysterious can be explained using mundane means, then it was caused by mundane means. That was a general rule I lived by, proven that both knowledge and first-hand experience. Supernatural powers that required carrying out occult rituals were prime examples of things it applied to. The more detailed the preparation required, the more opportunities to notice something amiss. If the trick relied on concealing the method, it was safe to assume the method was something mundane. Even this death wasn't caused by some kind of supernatural force. It just happened, unobserved. We had people who could do it and the methods that fit. That was the best way to look at it, right? Maybe you're right. You agree? I do think it was done by some people I know, by actual humans. But didn't that go against her whole God story? I wanted to ask her that, but seeing her eyes made me fall silent. Her eyes were wide and cloudy. But her lips let out clear words. No one. I looked away. I probably wanted to cover my ears too. Can't escape God. I found her words so irrational it began to frighten me. I asked Chiemi to call Kiyonosuke to help carry the corpse, but she insisted on doing it herself. I caved and began the unpleasant task. Following Takumi's example, I removed the door and placed his body on it. Chiemi and I took each end of the door and lifted it up. He was as heavy as he looked, and I wouldn't have been surprised if it was too much even for two men. However, Chiemi lifted her side without letting out a single grunt of exertion. It felt like an active rejection of the idea that she might need help. We slowly began walking. Kiyonosuke was outside. He was anxious about something. It didn't look like he was waiting for us, so maybe Rikaku Uematsu hadn't come out yet? I couldn't afford to stop and chat. Relaxing my arms or lowering my body would lead me to dropping Takumi. I kept walking forward without a single word. Sighing and stopping was our sign that one of us needed rest. Every time one of us did it, we lowered him to the ground, rubbed our aching hands and adjusted our grips and resumed walking. As we approached the cliff, Chiemi's expression grew darker. Takumi was the youngest of the adults. He was like an older brother to me. I wasn't going to ask how that mattered. I didn't see the point in questioning it. I simply nodded, continuing to play the role of the audience. He played with me a lot and always protected me when the other adults got mad at me. There's nothing good about this humid place, but he loved the Yasumizu and the people living here. Yeah, I could tell. He was honest to a fault. Yeah. I don't want to just throw him away. Of course you don't. I don't like this either. Should we stop? The only ones who really care about this are Takumi himself and Tei-san, right? No, we gotta do this. 'Cause of the corruption? Yeah. I continued asking if she was sure, but she didn't change her mind, so we ended up throwing the body into the Saranaga. We walked through the graveyard, careful not to trip. We could see the hanging pine through the mist. Our destination was near. We carefully closed in on the cliff and pushed the door towards it. Bye, Takumi. She said that right as I felt the body slide off. It was falling. I'd done this several times now, but it made me feel empty. It would eventually hit the water, making a splash, and that'd be it. Huh? Did you hear the water? Not sure. Did we both miss it somehow? Or maybe the bottom of the Saranaga opened up in a yawning chasm leading to the Yomi. You've got quite an imagination. No one knows what's beyond the mists. There could be anything out there. Should I go down and take a look? You won't return. That was how she saw the world. Let's go back. Is there water? We returned to do another investigation of Takumi's house, but something strange happened while we were gone. Kiyonosuke was still in the same spot, in front of Rikaku Umatsu's house, waiting for her without even trying to hide his frustration. She still hasn't come out? No, you're the one who said she seemed alright. What made you think that? I heard sounds. Why didn't you call out to her yourself instead of just waiting? As if I could do something so rude. Why is she the only one you're nice to? Nosato's above Umatsu, isn't it? That was an interesting bit of info. I hadn't realized the head families had a hierarchy. It's only natural to be considerate of women. I'm a woman too, though. I don't see a reason to be considerate of someone who's hostile towards me, do you? Please stop. We just finished putting a body to rest. That was probably one of the reasons why they were so agitated, but my comment was enough to shut them up. Though, yes, I'm worried too. She might need help if she's sick or injured. We may have no choice but to barge in. How improper. He was the type of guy to report someone who undressed a girl to give her proper first aid. What was up with this guy's priorities? Uematsu! Rikaku Umatsu! I bashed the door almost violently. I heard the sound of rustling clothes. Had she collapsed or something? Uematsu, I'm opening the door! No answer again, only sounds. Was it really Rikaku Umatsu in there? Let's break it down. Chiemi nodded while Kiyonosuke gave a disgruntled sigh. What's going on? The door was made of thin plywood and a wooden frame. A solid impact would break through. I looked around and saw a few aged farming tools lying against some houses. The old wooden hoe and mallet were far too rotten to work here. But the old axe looked just right. 1, 2... I lifted the axe and started counting, but I had to stop midway. There was the sound of clattering. The door suddenly moved. Surprised, I jumped backwards and glanced at the other two. They were just as shocked as if frightening. What was that? What do you mean? It has to be Rikako. Uematsu! There was no response at first, but a few seconds later the door shook again. A moment later, it fell silent once more. Had she collapsed on the door? If she wasn't well and was lying next to the door, breaking it open was dangerous. I put the axe down and walked up to the door again. The moment I approached it, I heard a clicking sound. I didn't even have time to question what happened before it creaked open. There was a gap about 20 centimeters, and it was pitch black inside. And there was a face all covered in blood. Oh, hey. Hey, Rikako, what's up? Is she a wolf? Don't mind me. while I sip my tea. It sunk back into the darkness the very next moment, but it was soon replaced by an inhuman scream and an arm that snaked out and grabbed for my neck. The grip had an inhuman strength behind it. I ignored Chiemi and Kiyonosuke's scream and tried to pry myself free. My throat was on the verge of crushing. The groans continued ceaselessly, the nails dug into my neck, and I was being dragged inside. Help! How the hell was she so strong? This arm clearly belonged to Rikaku Uematsu, so why? Help me! My words got them out of their stupor and they ran to me. As panic and lack of oxygen dimmed my vision, they grabbed and bashed and tugged at the arm that was holding on to me. Damn it! Hey, let go! Just one finger. I don't know how long it took, but when I was eventually freed, Chiemi swiftly slammed the door shut. Bring something I can use to bar the door. Like what? Just shove the axe into it. Sitting on the ground in shock, I simply stared at their exchange. I could still barely breathe, my vision was hazy, and I couldn't think clearly. Something inside was trying to get the door open and possibly escape. What was it, though? I had no idea. What had happened to Rikaku Uematsu? How about this? Nasada-san, hold it shut. I'll bring the others and we'll barricade it. Harayaki, are you alright? Can you stand? Yeah. Actions were more important than the words here. Stealing my resolve, I rose to my feet. We gathered everyone who could still move and sealed off Rikaku Uematsu's door and windows with planks, nails, large farming tools, and whatever else we could find. The small house was basically a pile of flimsy barricades now. Everyone was tired from all the work and sat down to rest. What's the point of doing this, though? Someone asked. We could still hear groans and crashing sounds from inside. No one answered the question, but we all understood that letting that thing out would be a mistake. But what exactly was it anyway? A Yomibito. That seemed like the answer of some sort anyway. What do you mean? Corrupted folk that come from Yomi. You know, don't you? Has to be a Yomibito That's not what I mean. Yamibitos are wolves, right? They come back from life because they have a grudge over being killed during the feast. It's not always like that, Haru-chan. Yamimizu has always been menaced by Yamibito. Or maybe this is the corruption. Uematsu might have broken an important law. That can't be. Protecting the laws is the role of the purifying spider family. But that might be. She touched too much of the corruption. But that's... She might have come to Yamimizu to keep at least a bit of Yomi's corruption away. How many Yamibito will we have now? Takumi was a good boy. Maybe it's a good thing he died before seeing hell. Thus, I offer homage to Shinai the Almighty, so peace may come to pass. Thus, I offer homage to Shinai the Almighty, so peace may come to pass. A silent prayer. Her eyes were teary and her shoulders were shaking. Wait, then Rikako-san is... Yomibito must be hanged. That didn't sit right with me. The rule was that breaking the laws meant getting the corruption, and getting the corruption meant being slaughtered, right? It was the first time I've heard that it was possible to do something about the corruption and that she'd die because of that. Logic had little ground here, so people were gradually losing their minds. They were being pushed closer to death. It was like this was a supernatural phenomenon. Is anyone hungry? I've already calmed down, so we can do the rest after you calm down as well. It was a very attractive suggestion. As we all turned away and returned to the dining hall, I felt like Rikaku Matsu let out a groan even more humanly loud than any of those before. Once we arrived, the place was dominated by a heavy silence. There were sounds coming from the kitchen. A kitchen knife rhythmically hit the cutting board as Kaori prepared the food. Tae was sitting away from everyone, desperately yet fluently chanting a sutra. Combined with the kitchen sound, it had a mind-numbing effect. Everyone else was simply falling into a torpor, staring silently into space. Even I, the sanest person in the room, wanted to simply let my mind shut down and stop thinking. What wouldn't stop me from trying, though? Rather than trying to evaluate the details, I decided to return to square one and summarize the current situation. Takumi was dead. That left me, Chiemi, the two Oribes, Kiyonosuke, Tei Yamawaki, Maiko, Rikaku Matsu, and Haru, a total of 9. And Rikaku, I didn't want to say she became a Yamabito or something, but it was clear that she was in condition that left her functionally useless. Normally the right thing to do here was to take her to the hospital, but instead they were going to discuss killing her. I'd probably have to remind them of the sound course of action. Whatever the case, if you ignored Rikaku and I, only 7 people were participating in the feast. With Takumi's death, we would never know what the snake found out about Haru. Therefore, the only confirmed people were Kiyonosuke, a human, and Maiko, a monkey. And personally, I thought I could trust Chiemi, so that made 3. That left 4 others. This was bad. I wonder if Chiemi understood that. I had to talk to her in private. Where's One-chan? We kept Maiko away from all that happened this morning, so she was still in the dark about Rikaku. She's not feeling too good. Leave her in peace. Okay. Hey, can I go outside? Isn't it dangerous? I'll look after her. She'll be safe if she stays close. The 2 left. Yasunaga. What? There's something I want you to fetch. I'm going to use the bathroom. More and more people left. They probably didn't feel comfortable standing up until now. Tae just continued chanting, though it was like she lived in another world. Besides her, all that was left was Haru. The way she constantly shifted in her seat made it clear she felt uncomfortable. Sorry about Takumi. I tried talking to her. Yeah, she always relied on him. What about Rikaku Matsu? I didn't like her. She creeped me out. Chiemi seemed fine with her, though. That's because she's strong. When did Uematsu arrive here? 2 or 3 years ago. Not recently, at least. That seemed like plenty of time to get to know a person, if you asked me. Or maybe not. Yasumitsu's people had been suffering at the hands of the village heads for generations. Of course they couldn't just accept her. I heard she's one of the village heads, but what kind of family are the Uematsu anyway? What do you even want to know? How many times do we have to tell you that you're an outsider and should just stay out of all of this? Oh, sorry. That was insensitive of me. Let's talk about something else then, alright? Fine. I looked around. As I saw Yasunaga walk upstairs, I lowered my voice and asked, What was mochi to you? Why are you asking? To make up for his lack of the funeral. Oh? In funerals, you talk about the people who passed away, right? I remember hearing that gives their souls peace. This is unexpected. What is? I thought you were cold and heartless. I didn't think I'd hear something about peace in the afterlife from you. That was just rude. Mochi was a Nasato, but he never acted like he was better than anyone. He was weird and as much as a troublemaker as Chi, but never hurt anyone. Everyone said he wasn't right in the head, but I didn't think so. He was really funny. I think he could have been really popular if he appeared on TV. He was 1 year older than me, but he treated me like someone his own age. I always had tons of fun with him. He got along really well with me too. He did? Yeah, they were always together and they were like a pair of heroes in school. They got along so well that sometimes I felt lonely with them. Her visage dimmed and I felt like she was easier to understand than most. If Mochi had really liked her, it must have been a tough love. She hadn't even looked at him in that regard, and being with Yasunaga made him even more of a target of her jealousy. But he's gone now. Yasunaga must feel terrible. Yeah. Why not help him out? Yasunaga was going up the stairs again. I gestured at him with my chin. Huh? He's doing something for his mom, and Chiemi's outside. I don't think you can replace Mochi, and Chiemi's probably the best person for the job. But even if they are the ones who will make the final decision, there's no reason to hold yourself back in the meantime, right? You want to help him, don't you? Yeah. You too? Well, Chiemi gave me way more than just a meal and a place to stay. I won't say I don't have any ulterior motives, but more than that, I just want to support her. She seems to be suffering at the hands of things I can't even comprehend. Yeah, I think I misunderstood you. I can't blame you. Are you going? Yeah, I still need to apologize for yesterday. Then I'll go outside too. We stood up at the same time. Though Haru was always on edge, deep inside she was a really honest girl. I worried that she'd fall victim to some scumbag like me down the road. Yeah, for sure. Oh, what? Maybe you should really run away. Never mind. Forget I said anything. She cut herself short and hurried upstairs. Apparently, I had gained some of her trust, but it didn't look like I could get away with any more useful advice. Unlike the other inhabitants, she just believed that escape was possible. That was why she tried to do it yesterday. That might have been the extent of it. So, who do you suspect? Haru and Yasunaga. I walked up to Chiemi, who was looking after Maiko, and started a conversation. I can understand Haru, but Yasu? We have 4 suspects, Tei, Kaori, and them. He was the only one out of those who were outside when Mochi died yesterday. And considering how cunning the wolves are, I can't imagine it being anyone but him. He's that devious? Yeah. Really? Why did Takumi die today? Huh? What do you mean? He was obviously killed by the wolves. That's not what I'm asking. Huh? What do you mean? Oh, I think I get it. Because the spider didn't protect him. Right, the spider is probably already dead. Huh? Wait. When you think about it, on the first day, Takumi was protected by the spider. And yesterday, no one actually said that the spider should protect someone else, right? Yeah. That means that the spider once again protected Takumi. He's way too valuable, at least. That's what should have happened if the spider was still alive. Well, that's true. Since the beast started, the ones who died before Takumi were Kanzo, Yashitsugu, Mochi, and the old man who cried wolf. One of these four was the spider. The wolf realized this, killed him, and then went for Takumi. That's why the only logical explanation... Huh? Aren't you overthinking it? What if they just assumed the spider was gone because of 4 people died? That's the optimistic take, but if we were actually dealing with somebody clever, underestimating them would be a fatal mistake. But how'd they find out who the spider is? You're too loud.
Huh?
It's nothing, Maiko. She resumed scribbling on the ground. She was completely absorbed in it for some reason. I think it's likely that the wolves guessed who was the spider. But how? You told me that on the first day, Kanzo let Yasunaga talk for most of the feast and made the final decision, right? He looked like a more proactive type to me. I thought he'd agree not to hang anyone on the first day. Well, that's true, but what about it? If he'd spoken up and taken the initiative, he could have easily controlled the situation, but most of his decisions wouldn't have been good calls. That was why he was such a good target for the wolves. That's what we thought, right? That's true, but we also thought the same about Yasu. On the other hand, if you're a wolf, you have no chance of becoming a target for the wolves. It's more dangerous for them not to say anything important and look suspicious. Giving away harmless info, for one, is way better. Or giving away harmless info is, for one, better. That's the clever thing to do, don't you think? But how's that relevant to Kanzo keeping his silence? Well, this is all just speculation. But I think he kept quiet to avoid calling attention to himself so the wolves wouldn't target him. Why would he do that? Because he felt that his survival was instinctively linked to that of the others. Because he had a guardian? Yeah, and it was probably the spider. Why are you so confident? The spider is the most vulnerable participant in the feast after all. The one person they can't protect is themselves. But as long as his identity was hidden, he had the possibility of making the wolves waste the night. That was probably why he tried not to stand out, but it worked against him and attracted the wolves' attention. He, of all people, is quiet? He must have an amazing guardian and all that. That led to the wolves taking him out on the first day, and then taking out Takumi, now defenseless, on the second. I know that's just speculation, but I kind of feel like you're right. If even that was planned by the enemies, it's best to assume that the anomalies, too, all have been shortcuts for the wolves. What do you mean? Too many people died outside the rules. Yoshitsugu, Mochi, the old wolf guy, and Rikaku Umatsu. She's effectively dead now. To the wolves, unplanned deaths are a good thing. The less feasts they have to survive, the lower the chance they'll be hanged. Then what if they plan for those people to die? I see your point, but how could they pull it off? They could tell Yoshitsugu to walk around outside at night, basically sending him to the corruption. I don't know the motive behind Mochi and the wolf guy's death, but it all makes sense if they were killed by Rikaku Umatsu. What? Tae talked about Umatsu's role and thought she fell into the corruption because of it, but there's a more reasonable explanation. If she killed the two, she would have broken the feast's rule of one person per day and become a target of the corruption. I put aside the idea that there were apparently two types of corruption, slaughter and madness. But how? Did you see the clothes she wears? She wouldn't have had the time to change. And there's no way she could have won against two men, right? Then how about this? Mochi or the guy who cried wolf killed each other, and the one who survived was killed by her. She became the target for the corruption for drawing the blood of a second person in one day. I don't know about the clothes, but it could be solved by a large apron or something. I can't say it's impossible until we verify it. But even a single guy sounds like too much for her. One of them was senile, though, or maybe they were weakened from trying to kill each other. Kill? What? How could you think something like that? Again, it's all just speculation. I don't even know the motive, but it does make sense. I mean, it's a bit much. But how is that related to the wolves' conspiracy? I don't know the motive here either, but if they knew her weakness or something, they could have goaded her into killing them. Or maybe she was a wolf herself. Chiemi was at a loss for words. I had no choice but to continue myself. She could have hastened the whole process to give the other wolf an advantage. I really doubt that. Getting themselves killed would be really bad for the wolves. True, considering the number of wolves and humans, losing one wolf to take out two humans isn't a good deal. But there was no guarantee that everyone would realize that. Not everyone acts logically. There's lots of illogical stuff going on, and predicting their efforts is impossible. No, I don't want to hear that. But you can't give up, can you? I don't want to think anymore. Sorry, I said too much. Don't worry, I'm the one who should be sorry, but yeah, this is a bit hard for me. I really don't think you people need to keep playing along with this. I'll help you escape if you want. We can't. I just know that if you're born here, you're fated to die here. That's just a baseless delusion. Someone who can't see God would never understand. Yeah, I won't. How troubling. It really was troubling. If this was some tabletop fun for the whole family game, I would have already punched the GM and left. But lives were actually on the line here, not just my own, but also that of somebody I kinda liked. We made it this far, yet she was uncooperative. Maybe I was going about this all wrong? Maybe if I wanted to save her life, I had to start by saving her from the darkness within? Or maybe from the unidentified supernatural phenomenon that was binding her? Though that didn't seem like something that could be done with just 3 or 4 days. Still, I'd struggled to the very end. I couldn't participate in the feast myself, so I had no choice but to leave it to Chiemi. I didn't say anything more to her. I just chose to believe she'd overcome her inner conflict soon. Meanwhile, Maiko's drawing had grown so large, it felt like it would get lost in the mist.
Oi!
Hey! Okay. Well, I kept going because they were, like, hot in conversation. And, happy music started, so maybe we'll get something good. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around it because they're like, well, if the old man was the spider, he would have just played it cool. But it could have been that, I don't know, maybe one of the boys was a wolf, like Chikamochi or the old man who cried wolf, because I mean they could have killed each other, but I don't know, there was no weapon. It's not like they would both die and then disappear, so I don't know. It's a lot to think about. I still don't know who I suspect. I mean, Yasunaga seems suspicious just because he's a little too smart. Like, he's like always there and always tries to give his opinion, and did not expect Rikako to just like go mad, but maybe she did something she wasn't supposed to. we're gonna end it here. I will see you guys next time. It's getting good. I don't know how much longer it is, but I really want to see what happens next. So I will see you then. Bye!